ABC journalist Steph Richards. Now, guys, I'm using the word journalist there very loosely. She's really just an activist for the abortion establishment, which you're going to see in this episode. Steph Richards released an article hours before the vote for the live births bill last year in South Australia. It was a calculated manoeuvre to try and destroy that bill on the night of the vote. And remember, it was incredibly close. We lost by only one vote. That bill was about saving babies after 28 weeks and up until birth so that they would be delivered alive rather than dead. And for weeks, ever since Ben Hood had introduced the bill, the media had been scrambling to try and find a reason, a real life story or stories of women that could justify the ludicrous claim the abortion establishment was making, which is that if Ben Hood's bill passed, women would die, women would be in danger, it would seriously be detrimental to their health. Now, that was a total fabrication, and they really needed to find somebody to back that up. And so Steph Richards, doing the bidding of the abortion establishment, searched high and low to find that person, and she did. Enter Tayla-Jane, a woman who desperately needed to be able to kill her baby at 27 weeks and 6 days, or else she was going to die. There's a lot more to this story than meets the eye, and there's actually a lot more to Tayla-Jane than Steph Richards tells you in this story. And that's today on The Dr. Joe Show. Welcome everybody to today's episode. If you are new here or if you're a returning viewer and haven't subscribed, can I please ask that you do subscribe to our channel? The more people that subscribe, the more this grows. So please do that. We need to counter the power of the mainstream media. As you're going to see in this episode, the ABC, as we already know, is just an incredibly politically motivated organisation. They are part of the abortion establishment in this country. And Steph Richards' article on the night of the live births bill is emblematic of that. So I'd met Steph Richards on day one of the campaign for the live births bill. You can check out this episode if you want to see how we met and the backstory here. But she's not a neutral participant. She's not a journalist. She has an agenda, and that becomes very clear. Now, Steph Richards wants you to believe that Tayla-Jane is just an ordinary woman, just like you and I. She is just a mum who's struggling, and she really needed to be able to kill her baby in the third trimester in order to save her own life. That's what Steph wants you to believe. And we're going to watch a clip from this interview that she did.
What was happening in your life that made you have that initial thought?
So I am a single mum and I have a little boy who is 8 now. And he was 6 at the time. He has disabilities, and all parents know that parenting is hard, but when you have a disabled child, it's another level of difficulty. And I try to do the best I can for him. And I knew that bringing in a newborn was going to be very rough. At that time, I was, technically homeless because I wasn't on the lease anywhere. I was staying with friends who very graciously let me and my little boy stay with them. I don't think I would still be here today if I had had that baby. It would have been so bad for my mental health. I truly don't think I would be here.
So here we have Tayla-Jane, who Steph Richards is painting as an everyday mum. There's more to Tayla-Jane than meets the eye, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But let's just deal with what she actually said. So she says, I wouldn't be here today if I had to have my baby. Now, she's allowed to say that, but Steph Richards, as a journalist, should actually, as part of her ethical obligations, point out that she had to have her baby anyway. Like, I think the whole thing about this story is that it's meant to lead you down a path where you feel just so much empathy for Tayla-Jane. You know, she's homeless, she's got a disabled child, she's really struggling with her mental health. It could be you or me that was in that situation, you know, there by the grace of God goes I. Like any of us could have been in that situation. And what Steph Richards is doing is a strategy that the left has done for years and years. You know, they tell you that you've got to allow boys in girls' bathrooms because otherwise trans kids are going to commit suicide. They tell you that Tayla-Jane has to be able to kill her baby at 27 weeks and 6 days because otherwise she's going to commit suicide. It's just a well-trodden technique from the left. Ali Beth Stuckey has written a book about this toxic empathy, how they weaponize, you know, our compassion to really justify the most horrific things, in this case, abortion up to birth. What Steph Richards doesn't tell you in this article, either in the video or in the written online piece, is that she had to give birth to that baby anyway. Tayla-Jane, when she says, I wouldn't be here today if I had to have a baby, it's just factually incorrect. She had to have a baby, but what she's fighting for is the right to be able to kill that baby. So the whole thing about the live births bill was it said a woman can terminate her pregnancy throughout all 40 weeks of pregnancy, but once that baby is in the third trimester, so 28 weeks and older, that baby is recognised under the law as a person, and the mother can only elect to deliver that baby alive rather than dead. The process for a late-term abortion is to inject the baby's heart with poison in utero. It causes searing agony in that child. It burns them. They go into cardiac arrest. That child dies in utero. The mother then is given labour-inducing drugs and she delivers her baby. As Tayla-Jane will go on to say, she actually goes through a 30-hour process of labour to deliver her stillborn baby, her deliberately stillborn, pre-killed child. Tayla-Jane is fighting for the fact that she wouldn't be here today unless she killed her baby, unless she has a right to that dead baby. Now, think about this in another way. If you or I or a mother of a newborn, walked in, marched into the doctor's office with our child, our born child, and said, you need to kill this baby and inject them with potassium chloride or I'm going to kill myself, the doctor would have to turn around and say no. Every single doctor in this country would say no to that because it just contravenes their ethical obligations. This is just murder, isn't it? We know that. And we couldn't blackmail a doctor to kill our child for us on the threat of suicide. And yet Tayla-Jane, and through the legitimacy of Steph Richards' platform, the ABC, which we all pay for, they are now propagating this agenda, which is, just an implicit acknowledgement that nobody needs a late-term abortion after 28 weeks to save the physical life of the mother. Every doctor in the country knows that if a mother's actually in danger at that point, you can just do an emergency cesarean and remove that baby. You're not going to go through a painful, a long time-consuming process of a late-term abortion, which takes 12 to 72 hours if a mother's life really is at risk. The only need for a late-term abortion, or the need in inverted commas, is the one presented by Tayla-Jane in this story, which is, I'm going to kill myself unless you kill my baby. It's emotionally manipulative. It's a threat. It's blackmail. It shouldn't have been given a platform by Steph Richards and the ABC, and yet it was. And the real response, because you might be wondering, when a woman is facing those very difficult circumstances, is to deal with the circumstances, to address the homelessness, to address the fact that she might need disability to support, to address the mental health needs that she has. She's obviously very sick and unwell mentally. Killing her baby on that justification, that's just a really gross and vile response, right? And actually what she needs is mental health support. So I really don't know quite what to make of this, if any of it is even true. On the one hand, you've got Steph Richards, who is clearly not a neutral observer in all of this. She's not a journalist. She's an activist. She's also a liar. You can see that from our previous episode. She's just breaching ethical obligations in the way that she reports. And she wants you to believe that Tayla-Jane is just your ordinary, everyday mum. But as we're going to expose now, I just don't think that's true. Tayla-Jane is clearly a woman who's aggressively into abortion. On the very day that she found out that she was pregnant, she rang up the abortion clinic and said, I need you to kill my baby. Like that's how into abortion she is. That should have been a red flag to Steph, just knowing that. But I guess Steph was so enamored in trying to find, her story of someone who really desperately needed to kill their baby that she glossed over that. She didn't, it didn't ring the alarm bells for her the way that it should have if she was a proper journalist trying to actually investigate an issue. Instead, what Steph could have told us, and what I'm about to show you now, is that Tayla-Jane is not just a self-proclaimed feminist, which is what Steph Richards describes her in the article. She's actually aggressively into killing babies. So, for example, her Instagram bio, it's not like my Instagram bio or your Instagram bio. Her Instagram bio literally she calls herself Lilith, which is a demoness child killer. That's in her bio. You might be asking, like I was when I first came across her bio, what is Lilith? Who is Lilith? Well, according to mythology, and if you Google this, you'll go down this rabbit warren, and you don't want to. It's incredibly dark. But Lilith was actually cast out of the Garden of Eden for refusing to be subservient to Adam, becoming a demon who targets newborns and tempts men. After fleeing and being pursued by angels, she eventually settled outside the garden, became the mother of demons, and continued to seek out and cause harm to humans. So Tayla-Jane isn't like you and me, the way Steph Richards would want you to believe. She sees herself as Lilith, someone who kills babies. Like this is not just a neutral person to have in your story. This is someone who aggressively believes that we should be able to kill newborns. Like she identifies with Satan. She identifies with the demons. Like she sees herself as a demoness child killer. And this is the person that Steph Richards is putting up as the poster child for why we need abortion up to birth. Let's take a look at Lilith in a video that she's posted about me.
Joanna, babe, what me and all my lefty friends with our sub stories would like you to know is that we wish you were aborted. Okay, my life is great. I'm thriving. I'm stronger. I'm doing so well now, and I don't regret any decisions. And you can just go die in your little hole of sadness. And it's a shame that you weren't aborted earlier.
So I don't even know how to respond to that. And I think I'm not going to respond to Tayla-Jane directly here. This is really about Steph Richards because, there's many unhinged people in the world. We know that, particularly because of the events even in just the last 2 weeks with Charlie Kirk being shot by a leftist activist. We know there's just really unhinged people in the world. But journalists, especially ones that work for the National Broadcasting Authority, shouldn't be giving these people a platform. I mean, that they should not be given a megaphone in which to air their unhinged views. And, what we see from this is like this isn't just an ordinary woman. This isn't just a normal Aussie woman. Like Steph Richards wants you to believe that these are incredibly difficult circumstances. These women are just facing a mountain of grief. They're struggling hugely, and that's why they need to be able to inject their babies with poison in the third trimester and deliver them dead. That's what Steph wants you to believe, that these are women who are just compelled into these late-term abortions by tragically rare and horrific circumstances that no woman should ever have to face. And then, you open your Instagram feed and you realize, well, Tayla-Jane is just actually incredibly evil. Like she delights in abortion. She loves abortion. Her and her leftist friends, as she talks about in this video, they love abortion. She's not suffering. She's not in grief. This wasn't a great trauma for her. No, she found out she was pregnant well into the second trimester at about 24 weeks. She then immediately goes, well, I've got to kill this child because that's her alter ego, Lilith, demoness child killer. And she goes to the place where they kill babies and she gets them to kill her baby. Like that is actually what happens. And then Steph Richards gives her a megaphone. In fact, Tayla-Jane loves murder so much that she wants to murder me. She says in the video, you should have been murdered, Joanna. I wish you'd been murdered. Like that she's acknowledging she knows abortion is murder. She knows that if I had been aborted, I wouldn't be here. So she knows what this is. She loves what this is because that's who these people, these radical leftists who love abortion up to birth, that's who they are. And Steph Richards has used our taxpayer money to give this unhinged woman a platform. Now, Steph Richards would have you believe that, she searched for a woman who's post-abortive. She did her investigations and, she's presenting the other side of Ben Hood's bill. But that's not what happened here. It's clear now that Tayla-Jane is an activist. Steph Richards literally went to an activist to be the mouthpiece for her story, the sole mouthpiece for her story, to say that Ben Hood's bill was a danger to women. She used this woman's a political agenda to support her own political agenda, which was to kill Ben Hood's bill. It's really clear just from even the quickest glance at who Tayla-Jane is that she's not a neutral observer, that Steph Richards probably called the South Australian Abortion Action Coalition, the activist group that wants abortion up to birth for any reasons. They're even happy with babies being left to die if they survive their abortion. That's how evil the Abortion Action Coalition is. I think probably what happened is Steph Richards has gone to the activists to find someone to be the voice for her story, and then she's given that person a platform, and that's what this is. I don't even know if any of this is true. Like if Tayla-Jane even had a late-term abortion at 27 weeks. All we know is that this is one activist who found another activist who then agreed on a story which then gets presented as fact. How is this even journalism? And because Steph Richards gave Tayla-Jane a megaphone, she was then able to get other media from this and then goes on the briefing where we get a bit more of an insight into how she managed to kill her baby so late in her pregnancy. Let's listen.
The day I found out is the day I called the Pregnancy Advisory Centre, and the first appointment I could get with them was in just over 2 weeks. I had to have a proper, bigger dating scan, which they had done urgently for me. And then a social worker was brought into the clinic, and we went over why I very much wanted to terminate. And I guess the social worker she wrote, a letter for me and sort of pled my case. And 2 doctors agreed that for my mental well-being, it is medically necessary for me to terminate.
So they always tell you that it's just so hard to get a late-term abortion, and yet this just blows that open, doesn't it? Like this just exposes the lie. Like, she called the abortion clinic. She got an appointment 2 weeks later, so she's now 27 weeks. Her baby is fully developed, 96% chance of survival if born. And she sees a social worker who she tells her sob story to. And this is not to diminish that she was homeless, potentially, if we believe her. I'm not sure that we do at this stage, that she had a disabled child already. But she tells this story to the social worker, who then writes a letter pleading her case to the 2 doctors. It's not even clear from this that Tayla-Jane even sees these 2 doctors, that they even have to do a consultation with her. She sees someone that's not even, medically qualified, probably doesn't even know what a late-term abortion involves. She sees a social worker who then pleads her case so that she can kill her baby at 27 weeks and 6 days. And these 2 doctors, I don't know who they are, they see that letter, they sign off on the fact that this is medically necessary. But she hasn't seen a psychiatrist. She hasn't seen an actual expert, and we've spoken to psychiatrists about Ben Hood's bill and about Sarah Game's bill this year. They make it clear that, if a woman wants to kill herself because she's pregnant, killing the baby isn't actually going to fix her situation. You've got to treat the mental health condition. In this state, if someone is suicidal, we have the Mental Health Act. They should be hospitalised. They should be given care. This is not the response. I think everybody probably knew she's not actually going to kill herself. She's just going to threaten that she is going to. Watching the video of her today, she's clearly just obsessed with killing babies. I think they probably knew this was a lie, but they're part of the system that allows this to continue, allows this to be, because of their ideology. This whole thing is a sham. There's this social worker, these 2 doctors, Tayla-Jane, Steph Richards, all of this, they want you to believe that, late-term abortion only happens in the rarest circumstances, when what we actually see is that the vast majority of late-term abortions in South Australia are killing healthy babies with mums who threaten to kill themselves. This shouldn't be the way it is. These babies can feel this injection, and even if they couldn't feel it, it's still a barbaric thing to do to them when we could just as easily deliver them alive. There is no reason, no medically necessary reason to kill these healthy babies. If the mum wants to kill herself, put her in hospital, allow that baby to be removed. If the mother's life truly is at risk, then place that baby in the NICU, give that baby care, give care to the mother. But in what world do we think it's acceptable to kill the baby because the mother says, I'm going to kill myself unless you do it? And that's Steph Richards' story. That's what she wants you to believe. And I guess what I was struck by in looking at this story and researching this episode is, Steph Richards gave the abuser, the murderer, the megaphone. She gave Tayla-Jane the megaphone to be able to tell this story about why she needed to kill her baby. The baby's voice is just completely cut out, which is the case of any of the world's, greatest atrocities and genocides. We see that the voiceless, the marginalised, the vulnerable, they're the ones that don't get to speak. And so, we can't tell these baby stories. We just don't even know them. But we've got to try. And a few weeks ago, when the ABC did another hit piece on these babies, they did a story justifying why Kate needed to kill her baby late in pregnancy and have that baby delivered dead. We released, a world premiere of Baby Hope from the baby's perspective. What was that like for her? And so today, as we finish up, we're going to show you the second episode in our The Other Side series. We're going to show you Tayla-Jane's baby, the other side of the story.
As soon as you found out you were pregnant, you knew that you were going to have a termination.
Yeah.
What was happening in your life that...
I liked being in my mummy's tummy. Me and my mummy were together for 27 weeks.
I am a single mum and I have a little boy who is 8 now. He was 6 at the time. He has disabilities.
The whole time I was in mummy's tummy, I could hear my big brother. He loved dinosaurs and I couldn't wait to play with him.
I don't think I would still be here today if I had had that baby. It would have been so bad for my mental health.
Mummy cried lots when I was inside her, but I always hoped she would want me once I got bigger.
I'm not really sure what it's called. It was an injection through my abdomen into the uterus to stop the heartbeat.
All of a sudden there was a big needle in there with me. It stuck right into my chest. It hurt so much and I was really scared.
Someone in your position would have to deliver the fetus alive, the baby alive, as opposed to as a stillborn.
Yeah.
All the mummies need to know, if they can't cope like my mummy, they don't have to kill us. They can still deliver us alive and place us for adoption.
What difference do you think that would have made for you?
I want all mummies to know what my mummy did. There is another way.